Okay. Well, today we have Paco Hope of Cigital, and he is giving a presentation at Star West, which is October 12th to October 17th. And his presentation is titled Software's Security Testing for Muggles. Paco, to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Right. I'm a software security consultant. So I work with a lot of financial institutions, retail companies, hospitality companies, folks who make software that do useful things for us in our lives. And I work with them on making that software do the right thing, be secure, in some sense, a white hat hacker, if you will. You know, the kind of person who helps developers get their job done, get it done right, and, use technology the right way.
Okay. Now, your presentation, it's titled Software's Security Testing for Muggles, and it seems like the presentation is kind of humorously playing off a popular fictional wizardry book series. What led you to that association?
That's right. Because frankly, I work with a lot of folks who seem to have the opinion that security testing is this magical thing, and you need to have a pointy hat and half moon spectacles and a magic wand if you're going to do something productive in security. And it turns out it's pretty far from the truth. You can do a whole lot of really valuable security testing if you know anything about just good old software testing. And that's the great thing about Star West is a lot of people who take software testing seriously. It is their job. It is their career. It is something they're passionate about. And so I really feel like we need to disabuse the industry of this notion that to do something meaningful in security, you need to have special tools and special knowledge and all these techniques that only the wizards have. Actually, you can do some really useful things and really powerful things as just everyday, software tester who knows what he's doing.
Right, right. And now you consider your presentation a lesson in defense against the black hats, which is kind of a defense against the dark arts to go along with that association. So can you kind of cover the difference between a black hat and a white hat security tester?
It's a pretty easy distinction, right? It's the folks who are doing something good, trying to make software better, hoping that we all enjoy and benefit from technology. These are the white hats, right? And the black hats are the ones who are trying to do bad things. It's taking advantage of mistakes in the software, in its design and its implementation, and trying to do things, that it shouldn't do. Uh, the reason we sort of make this black hat, white hat distinction is because there's actually a lot of techniques that are very similar between the two. But I'm looking to find the bugs and the flaws, and same thing with software testers. We're looking to find the bugs and flaws to make the software better, not to in some way, abuse the software or use it to our unfair advantage.
Okay. So why do a lot of teams and projects kind of stray away from security testing?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. For one thing, there's a misunderstood notion that software testing is little more than checking. So we're just making sure that the software does the right thing. And we kind of deprioritize hunting for the wrong thing that might, in fact, hurt the business if it did the wrong thing. We're so focused on making sure the software does the right thing that we sometimes overlook the bad things that it could do that burn the house down. And the other side of that is people, I think, sometimes perhaps discount their own abilities. They say, well, I'm not one of those, software security hacker type people. I couldn't, do what they do. I can't do something like security testing. I just know how to do regular testing. And, the two things are very, very similar. They're not that different.
Okay. And that kind of leads into my next question here. You're a strong proponent of the ability to seamlessly blend security testing with existing testing practices with a little bit of extra work. Do most testing practices lend themselves to the addition and inclusion of security testing?
Yeah, they do. And I think that limitation comes from a limitation when we're thinking about software requirements. When we start talking about what software does, we're usually talking about what we want it to do in the good case, along the happy path, when people are trying to do the right thing. How will the software work? To be fair, of course, we have to get that right or the software isn't worth writing in the first place. Having said that, if you sit down and write your requirements only from the perspective of doing it right, then your testers will only test from the perspective of does it do the right thing. And that's the key concept. If you were to write security requirements, use cases, user stories around what's the right thing to do when somebody's trying to do the wrong thing, Well, now you've just written something that a tester has to go test. What do we do when the guy does the wrong thing? And suddenly, security testing becomes just an extension of the rest of the testing that you're already doing.
Okay, so it's kind of becoming more exploratory.
Exactly. It definitely trends towards the exploratory testing. And I feel like most organizations that are employing a significant number of software testers are actually almost squandering this opportunity to use highly qualified, highly trained people who know what the heck they're doing to actually go look for security issues.
Okay.
I mean, if you take, I work in a penetration testing capacity fairly often, which means someone says, there's our app, can you break it? Okay, I can try, but very often security testing is time boxed. It's like, well, you've got 10 days, or you've got, $5,000, or, whatever boundary around how much can I spend looking for security issues. And contrast that with someone who does testing on this application for a living. They've got themselves a nice script. Every single capability that the software can do, they have a way to go exercise that functionality. They can go deeper, they can go more specific, and they understand how it's supposed to work. And so if they were to just toss in a few extra little test cases here and there, deep down in some function that I, as an outsider in a time-boxed capacity, I won't be able to do that. And so it's sort of unused capacity in your own testing organization. If we just gave them a little bit of a more remit to do more things against their software, then the security guys would actually have a lot less to find.
Okay. So let's say down the line, organizations stopped kind of squandering what they have in front of them, and security testing kind of becomes a part of day-to-day testing regularly. What will that kind of mean for the future of software?
Well, I often make the comparison between security testing and security requirements and performance testing, performance requirements, because it's another one of these non-functional requirements. It's really important to get right. And if we were to start testing these things earlier while we're still building the software, then A, the security results come in sooner and they're a lot cheaper to fix if we find things sooner. And B, then the security testers spend their time doing the stuff it really does take a security tester's capabilities to find, rather than have security guys come in and pick low-hanging fruit and say, haha, look what we did.
Okay. Now, before we go on, I kind of want to know what really got you interested in the realm of security testing.
So I've been doing security for 15 years. I've been doing it for a while, and probably 7 or 8 years ago, I attended a talk by somebody who was a software testing specialist, just someone who, does use software testing. And I looked at how they were organizing their work and how they were really approaching it with this professional mindset, and I thought, good grief, we security people don't do nearly that level of professionalism and that level of diligence. We just go in and start shooting at stuff, and we manage to hit a few things, and we call it job done. So, I went to a STAR conference probably the first time, I want to say 2006, maybe 2007, and I was just really blown away by the level of professionalism and diligence that people were applying to what I, as a non-tester, had always thought, just checking, just make sure the thing works. And I thought, gosh, look at the level of professionalism and how diligent they are. Man, if we applied even a fraction of that diligence to security testing, we would achieve so much more. So likewise, if these people who are so diligent and thorough and conscientious about what they were doing, if they started doing half the security stuff that I know, then I'd almost be out of a job. The testers would get it right, and then I would have almost nothing to find.
Okay. Now, there's been a whole lot of high-profile security breaches happening recently, and you kind of talked about how security testing overall has become more professional, and it's kind of becoming more and more part of that day-to-day testing. So, with that in mind, if the knowledge of the area and kind of the confidence in the subject keeps going, is security testing going to keep up, or is there kind of trouble ahead?
Oh, I think. So there's an interesting effect that I've been seeing lately, which is the ever-shortening time between sort of finding something that's a possibility and saying, gee, I think the software might do this, to kind of a weaponized payload of, yep, I can exploit that thing time and time again. That's what the black hats are doing. You know, there was an event just very recently with an app called TweetDeck where they had cross-site scripting in TweetDeck. And so a tweet could come across your Twitter feed, and as a result, bang, your web browser just did something that you didn't even have to click to make it happen. And so the fact that black hats can rapidly bundle and package their exploits also helps testers, because it means we can rapidly bundle and package up regressions that will spot the same sorts of issues. So if we sort of tap into that packaging and sort of rapidly reusing security payloads and security test cases, the testers will benefit from that same speed up.
Okay, so to kind of put you on the spot here, and I understand you're not, Nostradamus or anything like that, do you expect there'll be more kind of security breaches like we've seen with Target and eBay and whatnot, or you just
Yeah, I mean, a great example is OpenSSL, right? Because
right?
SSL underpins everything we do, and it's really, really important. And what we discovered was, holy cow, there have been 2 or 3 major bugs laying around in that code base
About
for 2
15
years.
years.
Yeah, yeah. So there was the one that was laying around since 1998, and there's the one that had been laying around for a couple of years. And so now everybody and their brother is picking through OpenSSL with a fine-tooth comb. Now, OpenSSL is flashy because it's so well known and it's used everywhere, but there's a lot of software out there that we're reusing everywhere. And I think it's woke everybody up to, holy cow, there's a lot of stuff we're leveraging and nobody's really picked through it carefully. So we're going to see a lot more before it finally starts to taper off.
Okay. Now, to move on here a little bit, you've co-authored a few books, such as the Web Security Testing Cookbook, which I think is a great name, and that
Mm.
offers recipes for security testing. It's pretty intriguing that you made that analogy. Is testing for security kind of like cooking?
Yeah, in fact, it's a lot like cooking. If you think about, I mean, I'm no chef, but you know that there are some rudiments like making a roux, which is kind of a very basic white sauce. And everybody knows the ingredients to a basic white sauce are just, some butter, some flour, some milk, and cook it in a certain way. And so many security testing payloads are exactly that. Oh, I want to test for cross-site scripting. Well, I got these 3 or 4 possible payloads that I should try, and here's 3 or 4 typical ways that I'm going to put those payloads into a test case. And so it really is like having a cookbook of some recipes. Oh, look, I've got a web interface that takes in some free text. Well, I got about 5 good recipes to try to test that kind of an interface. Oh, I have a database extract, transform, load, an ETL application, we call them. Well, I've got some standard recipes for the sorts of malicious stuff I could stick into an ETL app and look for the results.
Okay. So it's fair to say that there really is kind of a recipe for a lot of security testing.
There really are. That's right. And then given that recipe, like anything else, like pairing a wine with a meal, you can say, this is going to go well with that, and you know how to recognize a vulnerability. You know how to recognize a failure or a finding, and yeah, it becomes very repeatable.
Okay. And you have experience over a number of different platforms, such as web applications, business-to-business transaction systems, and even online gaming. Is there a particular medium or platform for software that tends to be more vulnerable or more susceptible to security attacks?
Yeah, so there's 2 ends of the spectrum. So you have you have kind of the in the middle of the bell curve, you've got all these apps that were kind of conceived of as web apps from the beginning. And many of those are not so bad. Because we thought about them being on the web to begin with. There's 2 things that are kind of at the ends of the spectrum. One is the apps we never thought would be on the web in the first place, right? So there's still actually an awful lot of financial and transportation and infrastructure sorts of systems that are 20, 30 years old, and they were not really built with the web in mind. So that's kind of, that's the new wine into old wineskins kind of problem. The other end of the spectrum are things like mobile. So mobile apps are kind of web first. They're mobile first. There are whole groups of people who are building an app this thing never existed in the first place, and it's going straight to a mobile platform. And so what I think a lot of people don't realize is just because you're mobile, you still have all the same security concerns that we've always had. And then you have some new ones too because you're on mobile. So it's really like we understand the middle of the bell curve, and there are these two tails of legacy systems that never anticipated the web and mobile where they think they're different, but the truth is they're not. Those two are places that are really active in security.
Okay. So kind of going forward in the future, the most susceptible is going to be the past, but not only the past, it's stuff that people think is kind of immune because it's mobile.
That's right.
Okay.
I always say that if you think of a mobile device, a tablet, a phone, if you conceive of that as a Windows XP PC chock full of malware, then you have the right mindset. You know, that's the kind of security you need to associate with a mobile device. And a lot of people don't. They think of mobile devices almost as appliances. How could you hack that? It's self-contained. It's a thing you can't get under the hood, but in fact we can.
Okay. Now, going back to your presentation, is there one thing you would like for attendees to take away from it?
Yeah, the biggest thing I need people to do is to stop thinking of security as magic and think of security as perhaps a special case of what they're already doing. Maybe you do things a little bit differently. There's a bunch of testing 101 stuff, boundary value testing and equivalence class partitioning. And when I first got introduced to those concepts as a security person, I thought, well, we do that. We just don't call it that. We didn't have a name for it. And so that's what people need to see when they're thinking about security. They need to see it and think of it as, yeah, this is just what I'm already doing.
Okay. And so, going along with that title you have in place, which is Software's Security Testing for Muggles, and how you're going to kind of try and get rid of the veil of magic that's kind of been, shielding people's eyes. Is it fair to say that you will not be wearing a wizarding cloak and a wizarding hat during your presentation?
Actually, I fully intend to come on stage wearing the full-on pointy hat, magic wand, beard and half-moon spectacles, and that's part of the attraction. Is yes to show that in fact underneath all of the wizarding costumery, there's actually just a regular guy.
That's fantastic. I really like that. Is there anything else you would like to say to the delegates of Star West before they attend the conference?
I think, bring an open mind and check the staff at the door.
Okay. Well, that wraps up our interview, and this was the magical Paco Hope of Cigital, and he'll be speaking, giving a keynote presentation at Star West 2014, which is titled Software's Security Testing for Muggles. And we look forward to seeing you all October 12th through October 17th. Thank you so much, Paco.
Great, thank you.